Hey there, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Jamie, and we're your co-hosts for Two Clicks in a Pod.
Join us as we explore our missed times, stories, and memories due to divorce and 1,000-mile separation.
I can't wait. You ready to get into it, Kev?
I am. Hey, Jamie, you think they're going to swear?
Oh, yeah. Consider yourselves warned.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Two Clicks in a Pod podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, Click 1. We've got Jamie, Click 2. And today we have a special guest who knows how to take passion and turn it into a profession. Literally, he's a writer, instructor, entrepreneur, and someone who's had a front row seat to the evolution of wakeboarding in Texas and beyond. Please welcome to the show, Brian Sasser. Hi, Brian.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Sass. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
Dad, I got to tell you, that was great.
Thanks.
Wait, what was it you said takes passion to? Say it one more time.
Knows how to turn passion into a profession.
Man, I like that. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, it goes on a shirt.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the boathouse over there. We'll put some shirts out there for Sass. Yep.
We're actually working on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, it just takes money to do that, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot of it.
Uh-huh.
Every day, another dollar.
That's right.
Yep. Well, I just wanted to continue giving a little rundown as to what I know about Brian. I'm trying to figure out when I first met him, but I know he attended Oklahoma State for a couple of years in 96 through 98 and has actually been involved in the boating industry for forever. I'm guessing, I know he started his actual wakeboarding school around year 2000, and I'm thinking it was probably 2001, really before that, because I met you before I had a Malibu, which was a 2001 wake setter. We were still wakeboarding off the back of a Four Winds boat I bought at Phil Dill, and that stayed around until 2001. And I don't remember how, but that's when you were out in Ferris with the school there at the little, whatever it was, what river or what was that? You were what the school was on.
Yeah, it was on a river. I can't remember the name of the river, but it was two lakes that paralleled the river basically.
Okay.
So right there in Ferris, Texas, south of Dallas.
Yep. And that Wally and I went out there and spent the afternoon and kind of got turned on to that and then took it back and put my rope on top of the pole on the back of the Four Winds and started that daunting task. But yeah, Brian's been kind of as usual with most of our guests, at least know who we are, what we are about, and has grown up with us and us with him. But he's been, again, working for the longest period of time, as far as I know, probably in excess of almost 20 years with Texas Mastercraft out of Fort Worth, and then established their branch in the Louisville market. And more recently moved on to, continuing his school. But then a couple years ago, here probably just under 3 years, took a break from the actual boating industry, went north to Oklahoma, and then came back to the southern part of Oklahoma, right on the line of Texas, and started up Texoma Boathouse, which is his own dealership that is kind of a entrepreneurial start for him with, I'm sure, some investors and other partners, but he has worked hard to try to get to have his own shop and has achieved that success. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been fun.
More than welcome.
Sure.
More than welcome. Well, let's go ahead and get going and dive into the goods. So take us back to what really brought you into, loving water. I'm sure it was early on, much earlier than probably 1996 or 2000. But what kind of put the light bulb moment in your head to make off and move on and get into wakeboarding and the love of that sport?
Yeah, it's kind of a progression. I got a lot of memories of going to my grandparents' lake house at Lake Eufaula and spending tons of weekends there and doing more like the fishing. I'm sure we tubed and skied and did all that stuff, but we definitely in the lake lifestyle for most of my childhood. And then we kind of I learned how to ski at some point, probably when I was 10 or 11, and off the beach or whatever. And that kind of turned into, liking to do on the water sports. And when I was, somewhere in the 9th, 10th, 11th grade, somewhere in there, probably more 9th and 10th grade, my stepdad bought a boat. It was a bayliner, so it was a little worse than your forewinds. But it was awesome because we got on the water. We lived 2 miles from Lake Arcadia in Edmond, Oklahoma, and it was just a real easy access to get to the lake. We had great family time, but eventually, he started letting me take the boat out on my own, and all my friends would come, and we started like almost skipping school and going to the lake and doing that whole deal when we could. But that kind of started the whole kickoff. I was pretty deep into baseball at that point, and I think I was a little bit burnt out because I really grasped to the wakeboarding stuff. Went to academy, bought a wakeboard, and I was in love. Got up first try or second try, whatever, and it took off from there. Started jumping the weight, started doing everything we could behind a bayliner. We didn't have, we'd break those little V deals that go around the motor, so we got to where we put the rope up on the cleat, up on the top of the gunnel of the boat, and, work on one side of the wake at the time. But that's kind of how it all started, that deal. And one of my stepdad's employees had like a jet boat, and he didn't drink, he didn't party, so my parents let me go to the lake with him, and he was all in for kneeboarding, tubing, wakeboard, just anything on the water. And so that probably inspired me a little bit, just to be out there more and open my eyes to some stuff that we could do. But that's kind of where it all started, and quickly transpired from all that. Then I had a buddy, probably when we were seniors. He had a ProStar 190, and which we didn't have a tower or anything like that. We had a pole, and we'd go to the lake with him a couple of days a week, something like that, and when we could. And it was a Mastercraft, it was a Mastercraft wake. So even though it didn't have any weight in it, it was night and day different to what I had behind my back.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, once we got there, it was kind of all in. We were buying wetsuits. We were going to the lake, trying to learn flips, trying to learn stuff we could do behind the boat. And that was kind of, baseball was starting to get pushed to the side at that point, and I probably didn't even realize it. But
when you were trying all that stuff, did you find other people that were already ahead of you in terms of skill, or were you just watching stuff? Like, I guess I'm asking, like, are you self-taught, or how did you learn? Because obviously there is technique and skill behind what you do.
Yeah, so that's probably what brought me to Texas, because in Oklahoma, all my buddies weren't as good as I was, so it's like I did everything I could. And then I met a couple of people. We went to a different lake, and I met a couple of people that had some flips, and they were probably about as good as I was, kind of the same level. And they're like, oh, we're going to contests down in Dallas. We're doing this. So I'm like, oh, shoot, maybe I need to go to some contests down in Dallas. So that kind of self-taught for sure, because I was doing everything wrong. I was an athlete, so I'm like, oh, I'll just muscle through everything.
Yeah.
Figure out what I can. And so it's yes, self-taught, but once I started teaching, I learned what I should be doing after, helping other people do it. I'm like, oh crap, yeah, I'm doing that way wrong. I got to figure that out a little differently. So.
Yeah, I know at that time frame there was, YouTube was not big at that time frame, but I remember being able to purchase CDs like Wake Tricks. They had CDs from that. You could find some of the riders that were pushing that stuff. That might have been later on than when you first started riding, I'm sure. But in that 2000, 2001 era, that stuff was pretty prevalent to find. But anyway, I know as well, saying baseball, I forgot that you played baseball, but I also know that you were pretty actively involved in, motocross and trying to pursue that sport as well. And that's what I remember kind of you still being involved when I first met you, or it always seemed like there was a dirt bike, at the place that we saw down in the first time I went down there. But there was always that kind of a mindset as well of just anything extreme. And as I say, wakeboarding is another extreme sport. So that kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and that dirt bikes is something I grew up with too. It's nothing special or crazy. We didn't race or any of that. But once I started, once I was in high school and I went to college, there was a track at OSU called Cooperland, and a lot of times I chose to go to Cooperland instead of go to class. So I was really like trying to. That was my love. That was my. I'm like, I want to go be a supercross rider.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I spent a lot of time there, but it's crazy to think of it like this. But at some point I had to choose between wakeboarding and motocross. And back then, for some reason, I thought that motocross was more expensive. And I think because I was crashing every day and I had to buy my own parts, so I was seeing it every day. Oh, I spend $20, $100 here, $100 there. But now looking back on it, I chose the way more expensive route.
Yeah, you traded motor parts for body parts.
That's very true. Yep.
So that's funny you mentioned the dollars, because I was looking down and I said, okay, I had this boat, I had that boat, and then when I got into a wake boat, I had a 2001, 2006, 2015, and now 2022, and the pricing of those boats went from probably about $50,000 to $70,000 to $115,000 to $250,000. So you're right, that is a pretty expensive sport, just in the boat time and the boat effort to just kind of stay with it even to this day. So it's a huge investment for sure, not only in time, but yeah, that bike is a lot cheaper
no doubt.
than the boats
No
you
doubt.
sell. So yeah.
Yep. Buy about
That's
20
cool.
of them for
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's funny you mentioned that the track at school when I was going to college and graduated in 77, but in my junior year, a guy threw a meeting at the student union, and he was starting a motocross club at the campus, and somebody had left him some farmland over there on the west side of the school, and everybody got together and just helped, do what we needed to do with equipment and creating this motocross course. And that was a lot of fun. And then it obviously was just a club, but we ended up having a good time and never sponsored any events, but it was constant just running motos, over the weekends, or as you said, whenever you didn't want to go to class, you were out there running motos with everybody. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. So growing up in Oklahoma, obviously your love of lake, which is, the same thing that I've tried to instill in my children, a love of the lake, which they all have taken away. And much like snow skiing, there really isn't a better family vacation than just time on the boat or time spent on the boat, of everybody being there and taking turns and doing what you need to do and just having time together to where you can visit, chat, and talk. But back then, when you were first starting in the grind of that and trying to get started, and then you were in school and you took a love of something that was going to take you away from school, I'm sure in trying to pursue this trick learning, talk a little bit about the time of investment in that and how the whole money side, if that was even a contribution or an issue in riding or not riding. I'm sure you had a boat or probably bought a boat and you had friends with boats, but I can imagine just spending long times and a lot of time just practicing your trick list and your craft in order to become, to a higher level rider as you wanted to be.
Yeah, so once I went to a couple of contests, I figured out pretty quick that, I got to get a different boat and I'm going to have to start putting some time in. And I instantly went into wanting to be really, really good. And I had once school ended after a little bit because my parents got a divorce and I was obviously riding dirt bikes instead of going to class or whatever I was doing. And so once I came out of that, went back to Edmond, moved back in with my parents, and went to school at UCO for one semester. And after about halfway through it, I was like, I'd started a landscaping company too. So I was going to school, mowing lawns and doing landscaping and trying to go to the lake. So eventually I was like, I asked my stepmom one day, I was like, I think I'll be okay if I don't go to school. And she was like, yeah, I think you'll be just fine.
Yeah.
I said, okay, perfect. So that eliminated school. And then I started focusing on my landscaping company. And I made it to where I was working a lot, but I would take my guys to the job in the morning, drop off the trailer, go back to my house, get the boat, go to the lake, spend an hour or 2 hours at the lake, go put that up. And I was just riding, trying to learn stuff. And then go back, work all day, do the same thing in the evening, leave my trailer, whether we were done or not. If we were done, I'd just go put it up, hook up to the boat, and go back out to the lake for 2 more hours. But that was like a daily deal.
I'm just curious, like random question, but who is driving your boat? So who is out there with you? Anybody that could, or did you have like a good buddy that you trusted? I mean, because it's a skill to even drive a boat that most people probably take for granted. But
yeah, we had a group of friends that we'd all kind of go out together. There's 4 or 5 of us. And then
so you have
yeah, we had different people, and pretty much I would just call whoever, like, hey, can you come drive me tonight? Can you do this? My dad would do it sometimes when he wasn't working and all that. He loved to pull me, but
that's cool.
For the most part, we just had a group, and whoever would pull. And I think everybody kind of figured out pretty quick that I was taking it pretty serious. And so sometimes people would come out and just pull me. They weren't really worried about getting water time and all that. It was turned into more of a training deal. Somewhere along the line. So,
So, what year would it have been that, you really got to a level? And back in that time, I mean, I know after getting more involved in it, just, that was really obviously a grassroots sport that was coming up just through hearsay and a little bit of marketing that became a lot of marketing eventually with the whole wakeboard community. And probably I just remember Wakeboard magazine and that being kind of the highlight or the headquarters or Orlando or whoever was running that show. But when did you compete and in your first really sponsored event, which I'm sure that was probably more prevalent than a grassroots event, or am I wrong there?
Yeah, so all of them were sponsored at some level. Like the first few contests I did were like Water Ski America contests or Hyperlight contests or stuff like that. Those were like in '98, and right when we moved down to the school, when we purchased the school and started doing that whole deal in Ferris, that winter, like I think we moved down in January, and I remember I had like 6 or 7 flips when we moved in, and we had 3 or 4 partners there. So I had a driver all the time. We'd gotten sponsored by a boat company, and I just started riding every day. And I remember I learned like 20 or 30 flips in 1 or 2 months in the off season. So I had kind of all my basics down, and then it was after that I almost went directly to the pro tour and started trying to place in the pro events. So that brings up a good point. So let's put your entrepreneurial hat on. When you say you bought that property, or you leased that property, or you got to the point in Ferris, I mean, and you had partners, what was obviously you had a landscaping company that obviously was doing well.
in Oklahoma. I don't know if you brought that, but what financially allowed you to make that transition of being a rider behind the boat to actually pursuing financially being a rider behind the boat?
Yeah. So I went to a different lake. Those guys that I met, they were like, "Hey, we're moving to Texas and we're going to start a school and we need a coach." And I was like, "Okay, well, how about a partner? You want a partner? I'd like to be the coach, but how about a partner?" So I went to my grandfather and borrowed 20 grand from him, and that enabled me to be a partner. And I sold all my equipment, and we had about 100 accounts or so, and I sold them. It's probably pennies on the dollar. I didn't get very much out of it, but basically sold the company, divided up the equipment and the customers, and had a little bit of money out of that. So, and then we just went down and started booking campers, and getting as many people to come through as we could, and holding contests on our lakes as well. We had contest series that went on all year. So,
And those were just the guys that you met that when you were out there and you saw them and their skill, like that was just all from that. That's pretty incredible. That's pretty incredible.
It was crazy.
Yeah. I didn't know
They
that.
were an X-Star. They were,
That's great.
Are those any riders that, that's not Joey, or that's not any of the riders that really kind of came on afterwards, is it?
Nope. These two guys are from Oklahoma. One of them was really well known, as just being in the boating and everything. Another guy was from Austin, and it was just one of his buddies. So it was just kind of a magic little mixture of three totally different people that went all into the same thing. So
are they? I'm assuming, I don't know, but is that school still around, or is that done? They've moved on. You've moved on, obviously.
Yeah. So I bought it. It was hard to operate. Okay, being 6 months on, 6 months not making any money.
Yeah.
Keeping your employees there. 6 months of not making any money is really hard to keep employees that you've already trained there. So it was tough. So I bought out the partners, and one of my buddies from Oklahoma bought into it, and we ran it for a few more years, and then realized, hey, this is expensive to be on a private facility. And that's when I kind of transitioned to doing everything on public lakes. And to where we could be on multiple lakes, we'd get closer to people instead of people coming to us, and only relying on the summer months basically to make money.
Right.
So did you in that experience, and I'm not sure how many years that would have been that you were there, but did you go down to Orlando and actually see how the camps there were set up and talk to Pat or any of those guys down there to see how that was all working? Of course, they had the advantage of being able to be in an environment year round. And I know eventually that didn't hold you back because people were riding with you year round in Texas as well. So what really, and when you say that private lake, it was a private lake, and I'm sure that was a lease back from someone, or just we did a like an owner finance deal. Okay.
It was crazy. We should have just figured out how to buy it, because we were paying an ungodly amount. It was like our rent every month was $7,000.
Oh wow.
We could have had it for a couple of $1,000s. I'm sure it was a $300,000 piece of property, and we had paid off 150 grand in a couple of years. So it was, that was tough because that ate into our cash flow and made it really hard to make it work.
So maybe kind of doing a real shift here a little bit. Obviously, those relationships have come and gone, and other relationships continue to, at that early stage, I'm sure, be there and then disappear, or be there and require a change. And as this podcast is more about family relationships, I know you have an extended family today, two of them sitting right here on this podcast, that just love Brian Sasser to death and have been loyal to him from day one through, 20 years later. that has to be worth the pain, the sacrifice, and the suffering, as well as, just having the relationships that you do have and the families that have placed their children in the care of your hands to turn them into good riders, respectful riders, probably, I hope, for the most part, but yet, it's a relationship business, as any business that is service oriented is. And that has to be something that, number one, took a lot of time. You develop that with time. And, you've always kept the wake school moving regardless of where you were maybe full-time employed. It was, doing both, not just doing one or the other. So how does that make you feel? What kind of gratification? And I mean, you should be proud of yourself, and I'm sure you are, and just the relationships that you have and relationships that you've lost have been good, tough, and sometimes difficult, I'm sure, to manage.
Yeah, it's probably back then I had no idea what I was doing, but I still talk to a lot of people that came through the school in Ferris, and that's pretty, now I understand how important relationships are, and probably have for quite a while now, but I had no idea. But just, for instance, I went through all our sales for 2023, and more than half of my boat sales came from some relationship that formed from the wakeboard school. So start thinking, I'm like, man, I gotta keep the school going. It's done so much for, it's kind of just been on idle. The business is still there, but I haven't pushed it really hard. And for the last couple of years, I've really focused on the dealership. But yeah, it's super important, and super important to me, because relationships are everything in this whole deal. If I didn't have the relationships I did, I definitely wouldn't be in business. That's for sure. So the referral aspect of everything we do in water sports is huge. So it's very important, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I made a comment, and I can't remember who it was that I was talking to about this, and you coming on, and we were talking about just, number one, the whole tournament. Might have been Reed. We had Reed on here not too long ago talking about his business and transition, and we got into DallasWakeboarding.com, but someone else. But the fact that kids have it's with anything. It's baseball today. Tate, Shane's oldest, that just loves baseball. He loves anything that's activity of sports. Whether it's judo, karate. Parker's the same way. They love that, and that creates a want and a desire. And when you put some kid on a wakeboard, it's going to create a boat sale. It just is. It's not, there's no if and or but about it. It's going to have a boat to go with the rope. So
Yeah,
that is a definite positive and a definite plus. And I think it's cool that, like you say, it is family, and family stays with family. Therefore, that's why you have those relationships. So very, very important.
well, that, and parents won't invest an ungodly amount of money when they see a little bit of promise.
Yeah.
I can speak to that, but it's like Dad said, you see your kid do something that they love, that puts a smile on their face. And this day and age, seeing a kid be active, I'm like, anything to keep them active, anything to keep them from sitting behind a screen. So it's like, sure, you want to play this, you want to do that, let's make it happen. Just so you're actually doing something physical. And but yeah, it's pretty incredible what the power of a kid's smile would be, even if it costs you $200,000 for a boat. I mean, that's pretty crazy that boat sales are that expensive now. That's wild. I'm sorry. We should do a little calculation, Dad, on the income. Like, I'm stunned at how quickly that price went up. I mean, that's not even. That's
well,
insane.
yeah.
That's
I
just
was
insane.
If I'd had more time, I would actually pulled up receipts and seen what I paid for them. But it's not just the boat. You got the boat, then you've got
the maintenance.
You got the 10 and the 20 grand you're going to put into it for stereo these days. You've got maintenance, you've got gas, you've got fuel, you've got boards. I mean, you buy all that stuff. Boat slip.
lake
Yep.
house.
I'm paying $500 to have it sitting over there at the marina, a month. So, and on Lake Cypress, you're building, $100,000. Some of them are building $300,000 boathouses to put their boats in.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. And the whole dynamic of it is crazy, especially, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but, just the whole COVID side of things, when people got out of school, didn't have anything to do. They got out in March, and, nautiques that you did not see on the lake were a dime a dozen. It's like everything that got off a trailer was a nautique sale. And I mean, it didn't make any sense to me, but then again, you got to start somewhere. And it's like I say, the story is you pay for one, then you get a good trade in and you buy another one that's about the same price that, that you had invested in the first one. So it's always a constant moving up game, and then it is what it is. But
well, and I think for those that aren't familiar, like who listen that have never been in a wake boat, I think something to note in the price, that the technology that has advanced in boats. I mean, and it's the same thing with like, I dated a guy in college that was real big into deep sea fishing, and we'd go on these like incredible, fishing boats out in Destin, Florida. And it was the same stuff. And it's not the shell of the boat, it's all the technology, right? So and in a wake boat, it's the fact that now, I mean, Reed brought this up, that there's cruise control on a boat. Like, I'm sure people are like, just like, what? Like, why would you even have that? And there's reasons behind all of it. But I think, like anything, it's the technology associated with the actual, right? The boat itself that probably has a lot of the
well, and
expense.
it's the R&D behind the technology.
Right.
They don't just come out with a new shape of a hull without going through the studies of what makes that hull produce the wake they want it to produce. So all of that science or engineering behind it, and it makes sense that they're spending all this money, that huge amount of money, way big money, and they're only selling how many units a year. It's that drives the price of the boat up as well.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't sell boats by the hundreds of thousands. They're not going to sell 100,000 X24s. They're just not. So
that's because nobody can afford them.
Well, right, because that's because but it's a dollars and cents game. If they know they're spending $10 million and they're only going to sell 100 boats, what's the cost of the boat got to be?
Yeah.
10 million divided by 100. I mean, it's pretty simple math.
And it's crazy. You guys would probably be shocked, but if you're selling 2,500 boats a year, you're one of the top guys, as far as the manufacturers. So it's not. Most people think that it's hundreds of thousands of boats being sold, and it's not at all. So it's
that's. So you mentioned half of your boat sales last year you attributed to your relationships that you had formed early on through your school. So I'm just curious, like, how many boats did you sell last year? Because I wouldn't even be able to guess.
We sold about 50 boats last year.
All right.
So,
I mean, I feel like that's good.
Yeah, we're small. I would consider us a small dealership. We're pretty quickly moving into medium-sized dealership, but we're in an area that is up and coming. We put our dealership over the Oklahoma border, so we're in Oklahoma for one, but we're in this area where the casino is and all these big developments. People are coming up out of DFW that are good developers that have done big projects. And they're doing the same thing up here. And so the people are migrating to this area pretty quickly and moving out of the Metroplex type lifestyle and moving closer to their lakes or into their lake houses. I know a lot of people doing that right now. They're selling their house in Argyle and they're moving to their lake house full time. So,
well, I mean, that's my dream. It's funny, like up here, and like Dad mentioned, we grew up being on the boat, being on the water, and we live in an area where, we're equal distance to the lakes of the Poconos, like the mountains of PA, to we are the beach, the shore in Delaware or New Jersey. And all these people are like, oh, I want a beach house. I want a beach house. I'm like, fuck that. I don't want a beach house. I'm like, I want the lake house. Like, and my husband has a really good friend that's he inherited it through his wife, but it's this small lake up in PA, and her grandfather bought this cabin on three. He bought 3 lots for, I think they were like $500 a piece. This was years ago. And they still have these 3 lots, and it's this little cabin on this lake. And everybody, it's all these people from New York now are coming out of New York and trying to buy up there. So, the Goya, the beans, like the black beans, the family that's Goya beans, like they have a house up there now that they've built. But it's so funny because it's like it's growing, and now it's a small lake. So you're starting to see wake boats come out there. And my husband's friend gets all bent because he's like, these people on their wake boats, like they cause so much, like all this traffic and waves. I'm like, dude, chill out. Like they're actually using the lake where we're just floating in it. Like they're actually on it. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to go over here and meet these neighbors so I can actually get like a ride behind a boat, because it's just, you don't see it that much up here. So it's really cool, but it's incredible. To your point, people are moving out. They want to get into that world, and I don't know. I'd be on a lake any day over the beach. I love the beach, but like, I don't want to live at the beach.
Yeah.
I take the lake any day.
Yeah.
There's more to do on the lake.
Yeah.
So.
Less sand. I'm not a big sand person, so I'll take the lake.
So going back to, and I'm just on the quantity of boats, and I'm trying to think back in the heyday when you were at Mastercraft and in that time frame, and you could probably identify what you thought the heyday of the years was when, because I guess I'd like to get your opinion on that. Where is the wake? Where is the people behind wakeboarding? When are we going to have another board shorts, bulls, and bikinis, rail riding competition out in Gillies? Where are those people? Yeah. And it's like it's taken a back seat because and I have to say, I think I don't know what created that. You would, but Wakeboarding magazine was always my favorite magazine to get every month, and just loved that when it came. And then everything just disappeared. Everything folded up except for competition at the X Games. Nothing like you would used to see, on TV of reels, just of pro competitions that were going on around the country, and I'm sure around the world.
We could probably talk about that for 2 hours, but kind of my opinion on what happened was when in 2008, when all that stuff happened, a lot of the sponsorship money pulled out of wakeboarding for whatever reasons. And so that slowed down all the contests. Nobody wanted to pay for any extra stuff because they didn't have anything. Everything kind of, their marketing dollars went away overnight. And so I think that kind of slowed that down, and then it pushed the boating industry into a higher category of people. So, and the manufacturers realized it, and so they had to start making the boats more luxury and more friendly to mom. Mom needed to be in the boat just as much as dad was, and for her to be out there, it's got to be comfortable, it's got to be nice, she's got to have everything she needs to take care of the family and all that. So I think that just kind of kicked that into gear, and the bigger boats and more weight and more luxury and more electronics, the one button push and the whole boat sets up to the way you want it. That kind of initiated, surfing and the lakes got more populated. So it's hard to ride a wakeboard when the water's rough.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
As the lakes got more populated, surfing became easier to do, and it's just a kind of an easier sport to learn and easier to do on a Saturday afternoon when everybody else is at the lake too.
I mean, is that what people are predominantly doing now? I mean, I know that's all I've done in the last handful of years. I haven't actually ridden a wakeboard. I don't even know the last time. I just get up on the surfboard.
Honestly, there's still a lot of wakeboarders. There's a lot of people that used to wakeboard that still wakeboard, and there's a lot of new wakeboarders getting into it. So, I'm seeing it kind of level out. Wakeboarding went away, I felt like, went away, but it just got really slow for a few years, and now it seems like it's starting to level back out a little bit. Like when we sell a boat, we're selling surfboards with them. We're getting one of the kids a wakeboard that likes to wakeboard, and we might be selling a foil to a handful of them as well. So it's just kind of seems like people are spreading out over all the different water sports that they can do. it's not necessarily just surfing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been seeing a lot of wakeboarding actually in the last 12 months. So
Yeah. I think you made a good point, Joe. Just with the traffic on the lakes, it what used to be even, and I'm speaking of Cyprus, it was always fine during the week. Weekends were always tough. It's only gotten worse. Holidays, you don't even get on the water. You just stay on the boathouse.
yeah,
But, and that's when trips to Broken Bow became kind of status quo of making that trip up there to get on better water. But you're right. It does take, and as you even alluded to earlier, of doing what you needed to do during the day, and at the end of the day, getting out on the water, that's the best. Well, first thing in the morning and last thing on the day is the best time to be out on the water when that sun's pushing down behind the landscape. And I remember doing that with Dennis Epler constantly. We would always just wait to the end of the day, or it was up, or we'd go for the weekend and we'd be up at 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and then from 7 o'clock till sunset, just doing what we could do. And that was, you did enough of it to where you were wore out from it. So it wasn't like you weren't having the ability to ride, but now it's just, it has become, and I'm sure it slowed down a little bit, as you said, but everybody is out there surfing and everybody's out there just beating the shit out of the water in order to do that. So it's tough, very tough, especially not on a natural shoreline lake. So,
sure.
Well, you have to be like someone who really wants to do it, I think, to be able to take advantage, like you said. So you think about a kid being out to go wakeboarding and it's a teenager. How many teenagers want to get up at 6 a.m. because it's good water? Not many, and that's something that, we would do. We would say, all right, as we're, 10 beers in, who's getting up at 6 a.m.? And we would, but my God, that was probably frightening and not the best decision. But you would do that. But again, you go back to, we were lucky that, my dad had a lake house with a boat, on a boat, in a boathouse, that we could easily do that. But you think about the average person, how many people can really do that? And unfortunately, because it is not that many. It's,
So
now it's almost, you almost have to have a lake house to make it all work, right?
Right. To actually get good at it, right? Yeah.
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 So with your with the school, and sounds like, just curious, even in previous years and previous times of running that school, just keeping, number one, yourself motivated to go out there and do it, which there probably was a lot of financial motivation there, but it had to be frustrating dealing with young kids, had to be frustrating with keeping attention. Then you would have, the joyriders who were actually paying attention and doing well and learning their tricks and kind of naturals behind it, to where it would keep you motivated. That had to be a part of, just jumping in a boat and spending an hour out on the lake with, one or two riders. But you've done it for your adult life. I mean,
yeah, I never really had the frustrated too much. Like I really enjoyed everything I did. We had a couple of kids every year, that you're like, oh crap, here we go. But there wasn't that many of them. And for the most part, you're seeing everybody at their happiest, everybody's on the water, they're having fun. Mom's happy because the kids are learning stuff and doing better, and that makes them enjoy their time on the boat with their kids more, when they can do better and they're not trying to work through problems and how to keep the kid on top of the water and all that. So
yeah,
I really, really enjoyed being out there every day. And honestly, the main reason we had to kind of move into boat sales is because you got to teach a lot of lessons to make a lot of money. And once I had kiddos headed in the direction, I couldn't work till dark. I couldn't get out on the lake at 7 o'clock and get ready. I had to be more of a, had to be available more for my family.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure.
that was kind of what made everything switch over. That, and I was walking up to Texas Mastercraft in my board shorts and no shirt, and handing people off that wanted to buy boats, and they're just like, holy crap, you just sold a boat in your board shorts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you learned pretty quick
So-
you could be doing that, right? And making a lot more
yeah,
money. Yeah.
they kind of pushed me. I remember Jimmy and Todd, the Texas Mastercraft, Todd one day, he followed me back outside and he's like, hey, you need to manage your school. You need to hire, instructors and do that. And you need to come up here and help us sell boats. It's like, you're probably right. It's probably
Yeah.
a great idea.
Yeah.
And are you selling Mastercrafts at your shop now?
Yeah. Yep.
Just Mastercrafts. That's all.
We do a couple other boat lines, but our main thing is Mastercraft.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a pontoon line, Crest pontoons and Belize.
I love a
pontoons.
pontoon boat. I love a pontoon boat.
It's good. A lot of people do. Our specialty is the towboat. So, that's what we really, your salesmen have to be bought into everything. It's hard to mix towboat guys with pontoon boat guys.
Yeah.
It's a different customer. It's a different sale. It's a different animal. So we really specialize in towboats, and that's what we enjoy.
I feel like the pontoon
It's like
boat
it's like selling the luxurious Lamborghini versus the VW Bug, right?
Yeah, probably.
Well, the thing about the pontoon boat, this is what people have to realize, if you have the money, is that it's just supplement to the towboat. Like that's where that's your barge, that's where you tow the people, get all the people with all their opinions and all that shit off the towboat, let them sit on that boat and keep it. All the kids, like when we go, good God, when we did the family reunion, Dad, 2 summers ago, and they're constantly like, I want to ride on the boat. I want to ride on the boat. But they don't get, you're taking up space. And so I would say, like, literally, I'm like, are you going to actually do something? Are you going to ski, wakeboard, or surf? Well, no, but I want to go on the tube. Nope, you're off. Like, we're not doing that. That's not for now. And we had some upset little ones because they didn't get the
there were people wanting to wanting to be behind the boat. There were people wanting to be in the boat, and there were people wanting to just go fast, and that's all you heard. Let's go, people, let's go fast. When are we going to go fast? And it was just nonstop annoying. So
constant.
And every family deals with that. That's not anything new, but so anyway, that's very, very true. Well, I think sales was definitely a good move, and it's put you where you are right here today with Texoma Boathouse and giving you that opportunity. And I know you worked hard to negotiate a deal and get Mastercraft line in the shop, and that had to be a huge challenge. You've shared that, but it's definitely what it is, and proud that you've got that up and running. The open house was great, and can't wait. We're thinking about coming back kind of the first part of October, and headed your way, and gonna, I think, hit a show at Choctaw and definitely stop by the shop. That's nice. Always fun. It's always fun to visit and see what you've got.
What show are you going to? What are you going to?
I think we're going back to Foreigner. Foreigner's back at Choctaw, and we saw them there. We saw them there last time that they were there, and then I went and saw them with Jamie and outside of Philly. But when they showed up at Choctaw, they brought the Durant High School choir in there with them, and Want to Know What Love Is. They had the choir behind them, and it was just that venue. If you have not been in there, it has the best freaking sound of anything I've ever been in. I mean, it's just amazing. And
Choctaw.
Yeah,
sure.
and I love going in there and just people watching. So that's a lot of fun.
Well, and they bring all your good 80s rock in there, Dad. So it's very
they do, but they bring a lot of country people in there too. So
that's your style, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But anyway,
Jesse Murph. You going to see Jesse Murph?
No,
I don't even know who that is.
Shane went and saw Jelly Roll and
Post Malone.
In Branson last weekend. That's a real shit show. They've got a 2-lane road getting into this venue, which is on the opposite side of Branson, out by Table Rock. Okay. They went out and saw Garth Brooks there a year ago. It took them 5 hours to get out there.
Oh my God!
On a 20-mile ride, 5 hours.
That's crazy.
So it's fine getting to the point, but the last 5 to 7 miles, it took them. He said it took them just under 4 hours to do it this year.
Wow.
that it just takes forever to get into the venue,
I wouldn't do
into the
it.
parking lot.
I wouldn't go.
I couldn't do it.
Choctaw.
There you
That's
go.
right. That's right.
We'll go to
That's right.
Atlantic City like we're doing next weekend. So
Yeah, we're going to
You
do
know.
see Def Leppard in Atlantic City, so we're doing that. So, but anyway, one last question on boats. I mean, in that heyday or prior to, I don't know if it was the housing bust at 2008 that caused the dilemma, but I mean, I would have thought that it probably went through 2010, 2014 before boats really slowed down. But I know they slowed down prior to COVID. But Mastercraft was selling how many boats in a year? I mean, how many boats would you guys turn in a year?
Texas Mastercraft, we were doing, the whole time I was there, we sold between 100 and 175 boats.
Yeah.
Every year.
Yeah.
Kind of up and down, just, depending on what year it was. That's how good we were doing, but pretty consistently 120, 130 boats every year.
And you guys had a great owner, as far as I know, Jimmy out there, and what money he put into that place and putting the pond together and the line up
cool.
out there, the 2.0 and all that. I mean, I'm assuming that's still up. And who's running that show now, or is he still owning? Does he own that shop?
Nope.
Or that?
He's sold to Texas Mastercraft, sold to Marine Max.
Oh, that's right. You told me that.
And then the lake went away. It's still there, but there's nothing going on the lake, and it's kind of sad, actually.
Very sad.
Not too long ago, just to look around, and it was pretty ran down, and people stealing everything off of it. So it's kind of a bummer. We're gonna try and do a similar thing here at our dealership. Our partners have a bunch of equipment, so we're gonna dig a lake here on the property, just so that we can have the ease of dropping service boats in.
Yeah,
that was a big help for us. There's being able to put the boats that we worked on the water quickly and test them. So that's it's one thing I learned pretty quick. The mechanics would love to just be out on the water for an hour, just stretch it out a little bit, just to not be in the shop and be on the water. So it's hard if you got to go, 15 minutes away.
Got to drive and come back. Yeah.
Yeah. So we need to have that on site. That'll make things a lot better. Then we can put the cable system like you were talking about on it, and do some lessons here on site, and have it kind of a part of our operation.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I have talked to you about that property which I still own with Bryce there in Mount Vernon, that 27 acres, which has about a 5.5 acre pond on it. And I talked to Pat about, what a line would cost, because I had the vision of that. I don't think Bryce was really that excited about it, but it's just a nice body of water, and we had it totally dredged it out, got it to 10 feet on the shallow end, 25 feet on the deep end, and it's probably not big enough for a down and back, but it would work. It would work if you had a good driver out there that knew how to handle it, So, but anyway, so moving forward and kind of now that you're an adult, I'm guessing you were born in what, 78 or that time frame?
77.
77.
So you are 49.
48.
48. 49.
Next 48 next weekend.
Yeah, because Chris is 47.
Weekend.
So all right.
Yep.
So obviously you got children, dad, running a business. I would assume that the school is probably working as it can, or do you have coaches running the school now, or is it just kind of dormant?
No, I've got some guys that are going to do that, but most of the teaching done right now is done through me. We're going out probably 1 or 2 days a week and doing a few lessons and teaching mainly our customers to buy boats. That's
yeah. Okay,
it's hard
that's
to
cool.
do. Back when Kelsey was doing it, we were trying to get kids out 2 to 4 times a week. To really progress and maintain that. It's a lot different now. We're seeing people 2 or 3 times a year, and it's, for a couple hours, and it's just more people. So it's a little different. Not as the contest is. There's not a lot of contests. It seems like they're starting to come back. There's been a few this year already in Texas, and so that really drives the competition and kids wanting to get better.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just trying to get better, for the weekends. So
Right.
Yeah, so mentioning Kelsey, and I think it was probably around December of 2012, as I kind of remember her just getting back from going and spending the Christmas break with Dallas Friday in Orlando, and then coming back and just saying, Dad, I need to ride through the winter. She was convinced, and dead set on that. And I remember meeting you at Sneaky Pete's bar and just kind of having a
Love that place.
mid-afternoon meeting and talking about that and what was involved, and how much I was looking forward to having to drive up to Louisville to drop her off, 3 times a week. And but I was all about it. Just that if that's what she wanted, and she really kind of caught wind and just really loved doing that. I said, well, let's give it a shot and let's get it going. So just curious to get your feedback on that, and just knowing how hard she, in my opinion, the effort she gave and the practice that we put in together on the lake, and then you put in with her, and just how proud she was of that, and just made her, really brought her out and made her shine as a young lady, and gave her something to have a lot of confidence in building her up to being able to carry herself well and compete and do what she wanted to do. So just curious to get your read on that time frame.
That was awesome. She worked her butt off all those times. Appreciate you bringing her up there weekly, by the way. Couldn't have done all that without the parents' help. So,
well, as you remember, that daggone highway right there was a mess at that entire time frame, and I think it finally got to being done. But man, what a nightmare! But yeah,
no, that was fun. I think that's what really kept me motivated in it all. I had several people that were doing what Kelsey was doing, and my 20 customers that came out multiple times a week that really pushed me to help make them better and be better at what I was doing and all that. That's really what kept me going and all that. Like the people that just came out every once in a while, they were fun and it was all good. And it was good to see, just the progression, because sometimes I could learn more with me in one hour than they could learn with their parents in a year, a summer. So that's pretty rewarding too. But really, it was awesome working with Kelsey and all the kiddos in that time frame that busted their butt and was really wanting to be professional riders and take it as far as they could. It's just that drive that they all had. Kelsey was she's one of my favorites that I taught over the years, and taught thousands of kids, and that's really what motivated me, just watching them get better and helping them get better. So
yeah, and it's something I think well, it's something that I realized is that the progress that's made, the skills that you see, you would see them at different times. When we'd get out and she'd have a good run, and then she wasn't feeling it, she'd have a bad run, but I always call it plateau learning. You learn, you plateau, you learn, you plateau, just the way kind of skills go. And then to everybody knows what it takes to, how bad it hurts when a board hits you in the head or you lose a board and it's in your way, and to spend all that time, effort, and energy and be ready to go compete, and a week ahead of time you break a foot or you hurt yourself and you can't go. And that's what sports is. That's what athletics are. You work, you train, you get to a point, you're ready to go, you're ready to compete, and then you get to sit. And that, I think that frustrated her more than anything. After, her going up to nationals the first time, kind of having a disappointing outing, working hard to get back. And, but she was a girly girl, but I'm telling you, she was tough. I'll never forget picking her up at the dock when she took that hit to the head, and she was bleeding, and we had to take her down to Baylor. And she said, "Where do we need to go, Dad?" And I said, "Well, we're going to Baylor." And I said, "I'm trying to figure out which Baylor we could get into that would be the fastest to get in and get out." And we went all the way downtown Dallas to get that thing stitched up. and she'd get a little skittish, but you would play it the right way. You would tell her that, you need to get back out there. It's just a bump on the head. It's not a big deal. And things like this hurt, and you can get hurt, but
Yep.
you either say, I'm going to quit and move on, or I'm going to stay with it and get it done. So anyway, appreciate all
lots
that.
Lots of ups and downs in the whole wakeboarding
Yep.
system. It's taught me a lot about life, and I think it taught all those kids a lot about life too.
No
Get
doubt.
your butt kicked one day, you got to get back up.
Get back up. Yeah.
Stay after it. It might have knocked you down a few steps, but got to get it back up. So.
Well, take some time and tell everybody out there about your family and your family life. And I remember first meeting you, and meeting a couple of your girlfriends, and then you and I've had some good conversations one-on-one with the crazies that we've dated and we've been with and seen and
Not
met
you,
those.
Not you.
Brian was another one, just like Holly. Brian was another one of my counselors, where he would always lend an ear and just tell me, what are you doing? What are you doing, Kev? So, everything works out to the good. And obviously you got a big family and a lot of kids, and everything seems to be in good shape, but nobody else knows that. So share that.
Yeah, no, me and my wife, Christy, have 4 kiddos, and one's turning 13 next month. One's turning 15 in September. And then we got a 17-year-old boy and a 19-year-old daughter that's headed to college here in a couple of months. So
awesome.
Yeah, everybody's doing good. Some of them love school, some of them hate school, and some of them are better than others. But we spend quite a bit of time on the lake when we can. It's hard to get out on the lake when you're own the dealership for whatever reason that is. Mm-hmm. I go quite a bit, but it's not for going and relaxing and
having fun.
It's,
no family time. It's selling a boat, right?
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
So, but we got to go. We went Father's Day, and we went the day after that. We had a bunch of friends out on Father's Day, and that was cool. And then we just took our family out on Monday, because we're dealership shut down on Sunday and Monday. So we went out and we only went for a few hours, but which everybody loves the lake in some form or fashion. They all like it differently. So it's kind of cool seeing that. I'm used to just seeing everybody, let's go wakeboard. But some of them like to drive, some of them like to hang out in the boat, some of them like to wakeboard, some of them like to surf. So it's pretty interesting, combination. But I don't know, everybody's doing good. We're all Abby's getting to where she's focusing on going to college and what her next stages of life will be. And James is the next oldest, and he's in summer school learning Spanish, or not really summer school, taking an extra credit to get that out of the way. And then got the other 2, they're just battling through middle school and making it into junior high. And
wow.
So it's good.
Pulling up the ship, yeah.
That's right.
Is Christy still teaching?
She actually just retired from teaching last month.
Nice.
She's migrating into coming to work here at the boathouse and helping me and helping us grow this into what we need to. We've spent a couple of years just really pinching pennies and not hiring too many people and all that, but it's time that we're ready for another employee and someone to help kind of keep everything all together and help, just keep everything moving forward. And I'm gone a lot, so it's helpful if she's here. She can do some stuff that I might need to be doing if I was here and all that. So I do a lot of the deliveries and a lot of the interactions with the customers, whether it's demos or deliveries or just going to see different things or going to Oklahoma City and figuring out what I got to do up there and in the different markets we're trying to expand right now up into Oklahoma. So we just got a lot of things going on. But yeah, I'm excited to have her here.
I'm sure
she's awesome, super organized, and super good at a lot of stuff that I'm not good at. She's very
There you
creative
go.
and yeah.
You need
I'm not very creative.
You got to bring your management in. You need your management. You can be the sales and let her be the management. There you go.
That's right. She can
keep it nice and organized, Yeah. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I think that's one of the best things, that brings to the team there, and better yet, your background. Both dealerships, Malibu and Mastercraft in Dallas Fort Worth, were family owned at one point, and now the big conglomerate, which I don't think has been a good move for customers from what we know and hear and visit with. And when I was in Cabo here a week or so ago, or 10 days ago, I always make a point to go see Frank and visit with him. And he's building a house there on the Pacific side. And he's always just very kind and very generous with his time. And just, that it's, the point is that I could call him if I needed help anywhere, I think, down there, and he would come, and I've asked him, I said, hey, we're wanting to go look at a house just to see what houses bring in value, on that kind of thing. And he's taking us out there and showing and meeting houses. Of course, he's in real estate now, but he had the fishing boat for a while, and we'd go on his fishing boat. But my point being is that you just don't have those relationships unless it's a family ordeal and a family business. And I think that's your win-win right there, buddy. Is you've just you've got that in itself. I would think, it's hard, no doubt. It's hard. You're building it from the ground up, but there's a lot more at stake there that people appreciate, and the people that know you for sure appreciate. And you've just got the right touch, the right personality, and you're not a high pressure salesman. I've always admired that about you. Chris Crysdale was the same way at Malibu. I mean, I looked at boats for 3 and 4 years before I actually jumped on, paying that kind of money for a boat. And it just takes building that relationship to know who you really want to be involved with. So I think that's great. But anyway, kids, where's your oldest going to school? Where's she going to go to school?
She's going to Corpus Christi. There's a little A&M Marine school down there, and she's she's excited. So
that's
her and
cool.
my wife went down a couple weeks ago and got a lay of the land, and found the grocery store and got her all set up and where the school is, and did that whole deal. So she's excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
That's a fun spot for college, right?
Oh, I think she'll have a great time.
Yeah.
For sure. And a year ago she didn't even want to go to college. So we're like, yes, this sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
So,
and that's water based, and it's not that large. I took the bus down there one year by myself, and toured the aquarium and all that kind of stuff, and how cool that really was. And it's I can't say it's the prettiest place in the world, but it's definitely, when you get on the beach, it's nice. Port Aransas is nice. That area is nice, and
that's where they stayed. And they loved it.
Yeah.
Everybody's
just
driving around the golf carts.
Oh, I love that.
Just a small boating town. It's really kind of cool there.
I love a good golf cart community. That's the best.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Very cool. Well, I hope to see the shop one day. That's awesome. I'm excited for you. That's cool. It's got to be fun to have your own finally, right? And like Dad said, the personal relationships, I think we see that here with, I was telling you about my son and how much time he spends with hockey and his rink, but like his coaches, and we're in the lessons, private lessons, group lessons, and it's a family, the guys that run that. And we had him on the podcast, and everybody comes back because we love them. You love the person, and they have a good product, obviously, but you return for the people, and you're the same way. You're a good guy. And like Dad said, you've always been great at, it seems like, building relationships and connecting with people. And that's what 90% of the game, right? It's
a lot.
It's a lot of it.
Super lucky. I've had a lot of good people around me over all these years, and Jimmy Harville, I think I probably learned the most from Jimmy Harville, the owner of Texas Mastercraft, just watching how he took care of customers, no matter how many boats we sold. No one really knew how many boats we were selling because we still treated everybody like, we cared and we loved them and we wanted their family to have a good time on the water, and we were extremely passionate about it, all of us. So it's good learning from someone like that. That's what it takes to keep this type of industry moving forward. The big box stores or whatever you want to call them, that's
right.
Just not personable enough.
No. There's no personality behind it. You're right. I mean, Jimmy was a writer and just skier and just, that I think is what everybody appreciates for sure.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's those people that you entrust and that you do trust. It's easy to let relationships go or fall off, but I would never drive down to Choctaw and not stop in the shop. You know what I'm saying? Unless it was a Monday. But better yet, I would still call you. I would still call you and say, Brian, I'm in town. You got time for a beer? You got time? That's my point, is that's what people should do. And I think that's what family and just those relationships spawns. And, you have a customer, you have a friend for life, and not that that's, to me, I think I'm in the same gig. Our relationships with our customers, that's the hardest thing we have to do, is maintain the relationship.
Yep.
If we aren't maintaining the relationship, we're not going to get the next job with them. So they can give it to anybody. So they got to like you if they want to work with you.
Yeah. You want to work with people you like. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one last thing or two last things that I wanted to wrap up. What fun fact about you would not most people know? What secrets have you been keeping all these years?
Oh my gosh. Holy cow. I don't know.
Did you win $1 million? You had $1 million gross winnings on the Wake Tour? No?
Nope. That's why I kind of had to stick to teaching. I never really made it to, I got in the top 10 a few times at, some of the pro contests, but for the most part, I was just chasing my tail and giving up money back home or, not being there teaching. So eventually I had to kind of migrate off the competitive deal and just work on my business and stay home and do that. But oh my gosh, fun fact, I don't even know. I've been working so much in the last I still love riding my dirt bike. We have a track in our backyard.
Oh,
nice.
There you go. And yeah.
We got a whole garage full of dirt bikes and
I love that.
To work on the track.
Yeah.
Nice.
All that. But
that's awesome.
Most thing, I just really enjoy being with my family. That's what I love, my Sundays and now Mondays, because we're all kind of on the same schedule, but Sundays are what I look forward to every week, chilling with my family and hanging out and doing what they like to do and being with my wife and all that. So it's a good relaxing day. The boat business is pretty stressful. So
yeah. I'm sure. Growing up can be good, can't it? Growing up can be good.
That's right.
Yep, that's right.
So it sounds like you answered my last question as far as the best advice you've ever received came from Jimmy, and Jimmy was the owner of Texas Mastercraft. So
he's given me a lot of advice. The other day, he texted me on Father's Day, and I told him, he's like, I hope the boat business is going good. I said, well, it's about to get a lot better because I just hired my wife. And he goes, well, here's a fact. You can't fire your wife.
That's true. That's true.
Just don't run her off, Brian. Don't make her resign within the first 6 months of work. Right. That's right. That's right.
No, I think she's gonna like it. She's gonna like it.
Yeah, I think you guys will have fun with that. That's pretty cool. Like the opportunity to work together, and it's awesome. Yeah, build something together. It's fun.
I've met her. She seems like she's even keel, and she's not going to get in the way, or she'll be there as an aid and help take some of that responsibility and stress off your shoulders, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'll do some stuff better than I do, for sure. So.
I'm sure. Well, can we let Brian plug the shop? Brian, where can, for those that want the best wake boat out there, the best pool boat, where can people find you and Plug the boathouse.
Well, we're 5 miles into Oklahoma, right off 69 or Highway 75. We are Texoma Boathouse, texomaboathouse.com. We've got tons of boats, pre-owned, brand new boats, fishing boats, pontoons, wakeboard boats, and expanding into more eventually. So working on other locations. Be up in Oklahoma City before long. We've got a showroom in Gainesville that we just keep some nicer consignments in and stuff. So we're trying to spread and grow and do all that, but we're all over social media and probably coming to a lake that's close to you if you're in the area to do demos and stuff like that. So hit us up.
Very cool.
And it's not that, I think the viewers need to understand that, again, it's when you buy a boat of this magnitude, you really just need to have a good take and knowledgeable people and the ability to ask questions and research it out, and better yet, have a true conversation with the person that's actually selling you that boat. Brian's obviously an authority on that, being a writer, starting up his own group. But my point is, it didn't defer me from buying another boat from Brian before moving to Nashville. And by gosh, he had Bob put it behind a truck, towed it out here and dropped it off to me. So I don't think distance and or location would prevent him from selling you a product, because he is up and starting, and I'm sure would be interested in any opportunities that were brought forward for that.
Yeah.
So just give that some thought. I think that's very important. He lives to provide good service and help, and you can call him on the phone. And I've done that many, many times just to pick his brain and see what's going on, and knowing that I can't get a bolt to come out of this and Bob walking it out for me. So anyway, that's the kind of, that's what you really want and you really need. But anyway,
sure.
So anyway, we will definitely, that's exactly right. That's what you need to do. They will do whatever you can. And better yet, just, check him out on his website. They still are trying to keep the school running and doing that as well as they can. So that's another opportunity if you're in the area there. But love it. Good job. And really glad you stopped by and gave us the opportunity to visit. So,
hey, I really appreciate y'all having me on. It's been crazy. We've been friends for 25 years.
Yeah. Yep. Kelsey being 12,
more,
being
27.
Bring the baby up there. I know I was on duty to drive her a handful of times as well. So it's
she was a handful sometimes, but
always.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Still is.
Still is.
Thanks, Kelsey. Yeah, still are.
We'll keep her though, but yeah. It was so good to see you. It's been too long.
Yep,
so.
good seeing you. Thanks for sharing your story, and we really like the journey that this has been proven from, like you said, over 20 years, and always a good time. So that's really it for us today, and we look forward to your comments. Make sure that if you like what you heard, hit the follow button, leave a review, and share it with a friend. And next time, keep learning, keep riding, and we'll catch you out on the water.
Yeah. Bye, boat.
Talk to you later. Bye, boat.
Thank you for tuning in today. With so many podcasts out there, we are grateful you chose to spend your time with us.
And we'd love to hear from you. So send us your questions, comments, and feedback to info@twoclicks-in-a-pod.com, and we might feature your message in a future episode.
Also, don't forget to follow us on social and head over to our YouTube channel where you can watch the full episode live and in living color. You can find us at 2 Clicks in a Pod. That's 2, as in the number, clicks in a pod.
Well, James, until next time, love you.
Love you too, Daddy.